Okay, welcome to everyone. Today our guest is Jarrell. Ryan, I'm following you for pretty much a long period of time, pretty much pleased with your interviews. Can you please share some thoughts on your career, on achievements? How did you kick off? How did you start with this job? How is it going? What are your plans for the future?
Absolutely. Well, first off, thank you for having me. I appreciate the kind words. I follow you for a very long time myself, so I think you do a fantastic job. For me personally, I've been a lifelong mixed martial arts fan. I just started watching it when I was really in high school. My dad was a state champion wrestler, and he was really into it. So I in turn got into it even more so. And I went to college. I graduated from the University of Maine in 2008 with a broadcast journalism degree. And it took me a little while to kind of figure out what I was going to do because I did move to California. I was out there for 5 years pursuing some writing and some acting and some stuff like that. Then in 2013, I moved back home. And when I came back to New England, I knew I had to do something with sports, covering sports, because I'm a sports junkie, and MMA just seemed to be the perfect fit for me. Fastest growing sport in the world, and I started the Main Event as podcast in 2015, and that started to go really well. I had a partner by the name of Brian Stackpole, and we did the podcast on a weekly basis. Basically, started covering like regional fighters, and then it grew. And in 2017, we changed the name to Between Rounds Radio. I started to interview more, UFC fighters, Bellator, fighters from all across the world, really. And now today, I freelance for All Access MMA, the Scrap, Low Kick MMA, and Cage Side Press. So things are going well, and I hope that the trajectory for me keeps going in the right direction because I love what I do.
Can you discuss all the outlets you worked for, all the magazines? When did you start? All the technical details. You understand question or?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so when I first started off with the Main Event podcast, that was a local thing. So I had some sponsors. That's how I made money initially. The Sea Dog Brewing Company, the Sports Arena, Combat Sport Photo. They all took care of me pretty well, and so that was nice. I wasn't working at like a big outlet, but when I changed it over to Between Rounds Radio, and I started to maybe get noticed a little bit more, and things started to get more views and whatnot. That's when the Scrap, which is a really up and coming MMA news site. I started working for them, and Low Kick MMA, and I can't say enough good things about All Access MMA and Jacob De Leon. He's really been great to me. He's been sending me out to the Mohegan Sun quite a lot this year during this pandemic to cover the Bellator fights. So I've been lucky enough to be there cage side covering those, and it's been a dream come true. I love every second of it.
So what was your, okay, let's start with the hard one. What was your hardest interview?
Ooh. So back when I first started, I actually had someone in studio. We had this really nice studio at this restaurant in downtown Bangor, Maine. One of the fighters, he was a regional guy. He won a championship belt here as an amateur. He was fighting someone from the southern part of the state who we had on the phone. So we had one guy in studio and one guy on the phone, and they were going back and forth, and it was really tough to actually try and keep them composed and do the interview in a professional manner because, they're getting ready to step into a cage and rip each other's heads off. So that was pretty challenging. And I feel like we did as good a job as we could have considering the parameters there.
Do you think it is weird when an MMA journalist, when an MMA journalist knows to fight? Like me, I know to fight pretty well. Is it insane in the world of MMA journalism, or it's becoming normal as the years go by?
I think it's starting to become a little bit more normal now. I mean, I haven't stepped inside the cage myself, but I do train. I love the sport. I consider myself a pretty decent boxer. My BJJ is awful, so I'll just get that right out there. If I go to the ground, I'm in big trouble. But I love to stand and throw, and I think you're seeing a lot more former athletes that are, really getting into MMA. And even if they're not going to try and embark on a career, to be an actual fighter in the UFC or Bellator. They do it just for their own health and fitness. I come from a basketball background. I played basketball in college. I played football in high school. Those were my first loves, and I can't go and play full court basketball anymore. I'm too old and broken down. But I really enjoy being able to go to like a boxing class, to hit mitts, to really put in work, because the cardio that you get is really second to none. And I think you're going to see a lot more former athletes really starting to train and be proficient as a fighter and a journalist at the same time.
I had some pretty much awful experiences with the people who don't know to fight and believe they know everything. And when I do color commentary this time, it's very much easier to me since I'm a Taekwondo black belt. I competed at kickboxing. I trained BJJ, but I've never competed. So as soon as they hold on each other, I know which is the position. I know which is the kick. I can even predict which is the next punch, next kick, next knee, because I fought. I competed. Unfortunately, I had to retire due to liver issues, but. Yeah, kind of sad story. So, what do you think about the importance on the scale from 1 to 10?
Importance as far as, what do you mean?
Importance for color commentary if you're a journalist. If you fought or didn't fight.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a color commentary position, I think it's pretty important. I used to do the cage side reporting and the color commentary for New England Fights and Ammo Fight League, which are two promotions in New England. And essentially, both me and my partner Brian were kind of like two John Anicks, if you know what I mean. We know the sport. We went to school for journalism, but we weren't someone like a Joe Rogan or a Jimmy Smith who had that extensive knowledge. So I think it's important to have a little bit of both. You can have someone that's kind of like the lead play-by-play guy, and then someone like yourself to talk about the ins and outs and the specifics of what's going on inside of the cage. It's good if you can have that balance, I think.
Well, yeah, actually, when I started with my job of color commentary, I was actually approached by a guy pretty much. I mustn't tell all the details, because of my contract, but he asked me, okay, I give you one fight, you do commentary, and if you're good, you stay. I said fine, and that fight was, I don't know whether you watched Stavropoli versus Salikov. Do you remember that fight?
Ooh, what year was that? That was a while ago, right?
I think it was last year, Muslim Salikov versus Laureano Stavropoli.
I'm blanking on it. I think I missed that one then. I was
It
thinking of
was
something else, I
it
guess.
was the European event, and they were standing and banging for 3 rounds, and I come from striking. And he was like sitting next to me. He said, "Okay, do commentary." I was doing, and third round his phone dropped. He was like, "How do you see everything?" I was like, "They are standing and banging, and I'm a kickboxer, which is normal." And he was like, "But English is not your native language." Like I said, "So what's the problem?" And he said, "You're staying. You're staying for a whole year, and then we'll extend, then we'll extend, then we'll extend." He was like thrilled because the guy from Balkan Peninsula knows such. But how are you anyway? How do people watch at you? Do people look at you because you're an MMA journalist like you're having 12 heads?
Well, I'm kind of from a small town, so it's kind of like one of those places where everyone knows everyone. I don't really like. I'm not at the level of like a James Lynch, right? Like he's been doing it for a while. He's at the top of the food chain, so I'm still one of them guys that's trying to climb and work my way up there, and I'm okay with that. People really don't know who I am, and that's all right.
Oh yeah, James was a guest of mine, but I like one thing about James. James, I mean, let's be honest. James is high, but he behaves like a very, very normal person, if you know what I mean. He is
Absolutely, yeah.
highly ranked, but he's like,
Right, right.
yeah.
Very humble.
Yeah, so what do you think about that feature? Is it important if you're climbing up to stay on the ground?
I think so. And I think it doesn't really matter what field you're in. I think it's important to stay humble and just to stay real, because nobody wants to be around somebody that thinks that they're better than others or whatnot. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all human beings and we're all trying to thrive in whatever we're passionate about. So I think it's incredibly important to remain humble and just be true to yourself and just be good to other people. That's the only way to really progress in this world, regardless of what kind of success you get.
work for some news website or never mind, how is important from 1 to 10 that editor and writer are in good relations?
I mean, I think it depends on where you're working, but I think it is important. I mean, you want to have a good chemistry, and you want to be able to talk through any differences that you may have and do it in a professional manner. Some people, don't take constructive criticism maybe quite as well as others. So I think it's important to kind of have that balance where you know who you're dealing with and know how to approach them if there is an issue that you need to work out. But yeah, I think it is important, especially at the higher levels when you have deadlines and a million different things going on. It's definitely important to have that good relationship.
If somebody has never finished journalism, like me, how much do you give chances to succeed from 1 to 10?
Geez, I mean, I'm not sure if I could give you a number, but I just think it all comes down to your work ethic, really. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, the people that make it to the highest of levels, I think, have the strongest work ethics. Even talk about James Lynch. He was working a full-time job and doing his MMA interviews on the side when he first started. So he grinded and then got to where he's at. And I think regardless of, who you are or where you came from or what your current situation is, I think you just need to have discipline and a hard work ethic and the right mindset too, because that's key. That's something that I struggle with. Sometimes I can get in my own head and tear myself down. I can be my own worst critic, but I think it's important to have that work ethic to go along with the mindset. And then you just never really know how far you can go.
Well, do you have some plans for the future? Do you plan to work for more outlets, or you're happy with 3, 4, or
If I had to say what my dream would be, and I know I'm a little ways away from that, but I look at someone like a Brett Okamoto working for ESPN. That's kind of what I dream to get to. That would be like the pinnacle for me. To be able to work for ESPN would be just an unbelievable dream realized, and I know I have a lot of hard work ahead of me, and there's a lot of competition out there, but that would be my goal, to be like someone that is an MMA insider or analyst or reporter, however you want to shake it. Just work at ESPN, and you see me pop up on the TV every once in a while to talk about big UFC events. That would be my goal.
Well, actually, we have different dreams. My goal is you've seen my interview with MMA Krause, probably.
Yeah.
Well, in this part of the world, you've got nobody like MMA Krause, and I'm like the first guy who does such things. And I was like, my goal was to be something like that, to be very popular. I don't know. I can't find a good chemistry with outlets. I don't know why, but I simply can't. I don't know why. Maybe maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I simply don't get along. I don't know.
Well, you seem like you'd get along great with anybody. I don't know. Have you tried to reach out and tried to work at different outlets in the past? Is that something that you've
Well,
explored?
I actually worked for MiddleEasy, but their editor is very stupid. That's number one. And number two, she was constantly questioning my knowledge, and she doesn't know better than me. Plus, one issue, she doesn't even watch the fights and says this happened, this happened, this happened, and I had to be very rude in the end. Then she was begging me to get back to work. I said, no, 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 no. My current boss is paying way better, plus I'm getting famous. So I don't know, maybe if I would find an open-minded outlet, maybe, but I don't know. The problem is because I'm from the different part of the world. Maybe that's the problem. I don't know. I just don't want to sound rude.
No, I hear you, but I actually think your English is great. I understand you. I mean, I think you do a fantastic job. I love your breakdowns, the way that you talk about the specifics and the different parameters for looking at fights. I thoroughly enjoy it. Anytime I hop on any podcasts and I do any breakdowns, I try and go to your page to see if you've broken down the fight, just to help me out and give me any tips. So I think you're on the right track, man. Just stay positive, keep moving forward, and things are going to work out the way that they're supposed to.
I assume they will, but I'm very much happy to cooperate with people like, for example, James Lynch or you, because you know why. Let me give you one example. James Lynch can feel the fighter before the fight starts, if you know what I mean. He
Yeah,
feels the fighter outside of the octagon. I cannot feel the fighter outside of the octagon. I can feel the fighter as soon as he throws his first punch or as soon as he shoots in, if you know what I mean.
I
because
got
I'm
you.
pure color. But I can't feel your private life. I don't know why, but I simply can't do it. I don't have that talent.
Well, I think it's more just like repetition. James has had a lot of practice actually doing a zillion different interviews. And I think the more that you do something, the better you're going to get at it. So I think maybe you're selling yourself short. If you do more interviews, and I see that you are, you'll probably get more comfortable and understand, people outside of the cage versus just inside. So just practice makes perfect. That's what I like to say.
Yeah, that is so true. I kind of afraid to ask personal questions to fighters because I'll be honest, fighters are very sensitive, and I don't want to irritate them. That's number one. And number two, I prefer asking technical questions because they are like, it's
Sure.
like not normal, And many fighters were very much thrilled with that. They were like, for example, Parker Porter. When I asked about Kimura Americana, when I mentioned Derek Lewis Blagoy Ivanov out Americana escape, I was like, I didn't want to ask him why are you staring at me? But I've seen that something was strange.
Yeah, no, I hear you. One of the things that I've found for me personally is, I think being relatable and showing a little bit of who you are as a person, even sometimes if it's difficult, I think it helps the viewers to really connect to you a little bit more. I'll give you an example. So like I lost my father. He died from cancer in August of 2018. He was my best friend. I I still struggle with it to this day. And if I'm interviewing a fighter and I happen to know that, maybe they had lost a parent to cancer or just something else, sometimes it depends again on feeling the fighter and knowing where they're at. But I think sometimes like humanizing people and just talking about you and what you've been through and relating to your guest is important because it helps them maybe open up or maybe they don't want to go down that road. I mean, they're going to let you know either way. But I mean, that's the kind of stuff that a lot of people that maybe aren't MMA junkies like we are, that just want to talk about fighting and everything, they're going to connect more. You get people out, their family, their friends they're watching these interviews, and that's the type of stuff that resonates, and I feel like that's one of the things that I've done okay so far, and I'm going to continue to be me. And sometimes I might get a little too personal or emotional, but that's just me. And I think people that follow me appreciate that. So you just kind of find what works for you and go from there.
How did you put that parameter to the next level? That's something I was never able to put on the higher level because I don't know why. I'm just, maybe I'm just too.
It's tough. It's tough. Everyone has their good days and their bad days. There's not going to be, every time where I want to go down that road, but if the mood strikes and I feel like this is important and I feel I can get something out of the person I'm interviewing and I can get them to connect with me and talk a little bit more, I try to do my best. It's not easy. It's not easy. Everyone deals with loss differently. And, we all struggle with it in some way, shape, or form. So it's hard. I just think the older you get, the wiser you become, and you're able to do things maybe that you couldn't have done when you were a little bit younger. You just become a little bit tougher. My skin's a little bit thicker. I'm able to push through when I maybe couldn't have when I was,
Right, no problems about that one. Definitely agree. Do you hear me?
yeah, you're coming in good.
Yeah, great. So that was actually the question. Would you like to add something else to this interview? Would you maybe like to, to send a global message, or I basically ask you everything I wanted to ask you?
Yeah, I mean, I just appreciate you having me on. I'm an MMA junkie. I love this sport. I've been a lifelong fan. I feel lucky to be covering it at the level that I am, and now I feel like I'm just getting started. So if you're out there and you're watching this and you're looking for someone new to follow, as far as fighter interviews go, maybe I'm your guy. Give it a shot. Follow me on YouTube at Ryan Jarrell. And yeah, I'm producing content all the time. So I thoroughly enjoy what I'm doing.
Yeah, definitely. And the last question: do you think that I think that I'm too high compared to other journalists. Do I behave that way, or I behave like I'm very much down to earth?
No, well, I mean, this is the first conversation that I've ever had with you. So, I mean, yeah, I think that you're a down to earth, normal guy. I mean, I enjoy watching you. I follow you on your YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I follow you on all of them. If I didn't follow you, then maybe there would be an issue there. But I think you're a good guy, and I think you're doing good work. So I think you should just keep it up and do it with a positive frame of mind and a smile on your face.
Thank you so much for this, man. I hope I will put this live on Thursday because tomorrow the day is, already appointed something. But on Thursday I will send you. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. Have a great day.